Have you ever wondered why history's greatest geniuses were men who guarded their most intimate energies like sacred treasures? Why did Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Isaac Newton, and so many other titans of human creation live lives of seemingly restrained sexual expression while building intellectual empires that endure to this day? Is it a coincidence that those who mastered the external world first mastered their most primal urges? Or is there a hidden connection, a secret alchemy between the preservation of vital seed and the awakening of dormant genius? The answer isn't found in self-help manuals or the empty motivational speeches that flood our age. It lies in the depths of ancient wisdom, in what the Stoics called absolute self-mastery, and what Napoleon Hill revealed in his writings as the most powerful source of transmutable energy known to man: sexual energy. But not sexual energy as the modern world understands it, not as fleeting pleasure, not as momentary escape, not as unrestrained compulsion. We're talking about sexual energy as cosmic fuel, as sacred fire, as the very essence of the creative force that moves universes and awakens sleeping gods in human flesh. We live in a society that has taught us to see desire as weakness disguised as strength, that has conditioned us to believe that the constant release of sexual tension is synonymous with health and modernity. We've been programmed to believe that repression is neurosis, that restraint is archaic, that conservation is pathological. But what if all this programming were the greatest deception of contemporary civilization? What if the true revolution wasn't sexual liberation, but the conscious transmutation of this primal energy into creative power, into personal magnetism, into manifested genius? Stoicism teaches us that the truly free man is one who is not a slave to his desires, but the absolute master of his passions, not because he denies or violently represses them, but because he understands them in their deepest essence and redirects them towards higher purposes. Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, they all understood that there's an immense difference between the man who is driven by his impulses and the one who moves his impulses consciously. The former is a puppet of circumstances, a leaf in the wind, a slave disguised as free. The latter is an architect of realities, a creator of destinies, an emperor of himself. But to truly understand the hidden power in seminal retention, we need to dive into the deep waters of the human psyche and acknowledge that all sexual energy is in its purest essence, creative energy. It's the same force that makes a seed break through the earth and transform into a majestic tree, that makes an embryo develop into a complex human being, that moves planets in their orbits and keeps stars burning in the infinite cosmos. When a man ejaculates compulsively, he's not just losing bodily fluids, he's dissipating the very force that could transform him into a giant. Napoleon Hill discovered through decades of research with the most successful men of his time that they all had one common denominator: conscious control over their sexual energy. They weren't asexual or repressed men, but men who had learned to channel this volcanic energy into the creation of empires, works of art, scientific discoveries, and achievements that transcended the ordinary. They had discovered the secret of transmutation, the art of turning lead into gold, impulse into purpose, desire into power. Compulsive masturbation, that silent vice that haunts millions of modern men, is the exact opposite of this transmutation. It's the waste of vital force, the constant leakage of energy that should be accumulated and concentrated for great achievements. Each unnecessary ejaculation is like an energetic bloodletting, a hole in the reservoir of personal power, a short circuit in the nervous system that should be conducting creative electricity to the higher centers of consciousness. Imagine for a moment your nervous system as a complex electrical network. Sexual energy, when preserved and transmuted, rises up the spine like a powerful electric current, feeding the brain with a voltage that few men have ever experienced. It's this extra voltage that awakens intuition, accelerates reasoning, magnetizes personality, transforms common words into hypnotic speeches, and causes brilliant ideas to emerge from nowhere like rays of light cutting through mental darkness. But when this energy is constantly discharged through masturbation or compulsive sex, the system always operates at low voltage. The man lives in a chronic mental fog. His intuition remains dormant, his presence becomes opaque, his words lack magnetic power. He becomes ordinary, predictable, easily forgettable, not because he lacks potential, but because he's constantly draining the fuel that would power his greatness. The ancient Stoic philosophers understood this intuitively. For them, sexual continence wasn't religious moralism or neurotic repression, it was a power strategy. It was the difference between being an ordinary man and being an exceptional man. It was the difference between living on the surface of existence and diving into the depths of human potential. Marcus Aurelius didn't guard his sexual energy out of fear of pleasure, but out of love for excellence. He knew that each drop of semen contained not only reproductive cells but cosmic information, concentrated energy, power in its purest state. Modern science, albeit timidly, is beginning to confirm what the ancient sages always knew. Human semen contains extraordinary concentrations of zinc, magnesium, calcium, potassium, B vitamins, noble proteins, and a host of other nutrients that are essential for the optimal functioning of the nervous system and the brain. When a man ejaculates frequently, he's not just losing these nutrients, he's forcing his body into constant work of replenishment, diverting vital energy that could be used for higher mental processes, elevated creativity, and the manifestation of latent potentials. But the nutritional dimension is just the tip of the iceberg. The real revolution happens on a subtle energetic plane, in what the ancients called the etheric body, or vital body. When sexual energy is conserved for extended periods, it doesn't stagnate in the genitals, it's naturally transmuted and redistributed throughout the body's energy system. It rises up the spine, nourishes the higher energy centers, intensifies intuition, awakens dormant psychic abilities, and literally transforms brain chemistry. This is where our journey becomes truly transformative, and this is why I need to pause to invite you to be a part of this quiet revolution that's happening. If this content is touching something deep within you, if you're recognizing truths your soul has always known but your mind hasn't yet grasped, then you need to subscribe to this channel right now and turn on all notifications, because what we're exploring here isn't just theoretical concepts, these are practical keys to unlocking your highest potential. Every video I post is a deeper dive into this inner alchemy that can radically transform your life. Don't let this information get lost in the infinite ocean of superficial content on the internet. Be a part of this community of men rediscovering the lost secrets of true masculinity. Subscribe now, because your evolution can't wait. Sexual transmutation isn't a process that happens overnight. It's a journey of self-discovery that requires iron discipline, saintly patience, and warrior courage. Because in the beginning, when you decide to stop wasting your vital energy through compulsive masturbation, your nervous system enters a kind of energetic withdrawal syndrome. Your body, accustomed to the addictive cycle of tension and release, starts screaming for immediate gratification. Your mind, programmed to seek easy pleasure, invents 1,000 justifications for you to return to old patterns. This is the moment when most men give up. This is the moment when they conclude that sexual continence is impossible, unnatural, harmful. But what they don't understand is that they're going through the most critical phase of transformation, the moment when the accumulated energy is starting to pressure the higher channels of consciousness, forcing a complete reorganization of the internal energy system. It's like forcing a river to change its natural course. There's resistance, there's turbulence, there's apparent chaos before the new pattern establishes itself. The Stoics called this phase the dark night of the soul, in this context the sexual dark night. It's the period when the practitioner feels divided between two natures, the lower nature, which pulls him towards immediate pleasures and instant gratifications, and the higher nature, which calls him to unexplored territories of personal power and transcendent fulfillment. It's the epic battle between the man you are and the man you can become. It's the ultimate confrontation between comfortable mediocrity and uncomfortable greatness. But those who persevere through this inner storm discover something extraordinary. Sexual energy, when not wasted, literally transforms brain chemistry. Neurotransmitters begin to operate at higher frequencies, dopamine reorganizes into more sophisticated patterns, serotonin stabilizes at optimal levels, and substances like oxytocin and vasopressin begin to be produced in quantities that generate states of consciousness rarely experienced by most people. At this point, the man begins to notice profound changes in his perception of reality. Colors seem more vivid, sounds sharper, tastes more intense. His intuition sharpens almost supernaturally. He begins to feel people and situations with an accuracy that surprises him. His memory becomes sharper, his concentration multiplies, his physical energy intensifies without any apparent logical explanation. It's as if a veil has been lifted from his eyes, revealing dimensions of existence that have always been there, but remained invisible to a consciousness dulled by the constant dissipation of vital force. Leonardo da Vinci knew this secret. That's why he could paint with one hand, write with the other, design flying machines in his mind, and solve complex mathematical problems simultaneously. His sexual energy, preserved and transmuted, fueled multiple centers of genius at the same time. Tesla also knew this secret. That's why he could visualize complex machines in his mind, mentally test them, modify them, and perfect them before even building them physically. His concentrated vital energy transformed into scientific clairvoyance. Isaac Newton spent years of his life in almost absolute celibacy, and it was precisely those years that produced his most revolutionary discoveries. When he finally became romantically involved, his intellectual productivity plummeted dramatically. Coincidence? Impossible. Gandhi, who revolutionized an entire nation through the force of his presence and his words, practiced brahmacharya, conscious sexual continence, as the fundamental basis of his personal power. He knew that every drop of sexually wasted energy was one less drop of revolutionary power. These men understood something that our hypersexualized society refuses to acknowledge. There's a direct connection between sexual continence and manifest genius. Not because sex is bad or dirty, but because sexual energy is the most potent of all human energies, and when it's constantly dissipated, a man always operates below his maximum potential. It's like trying to drive a race car with the tank always on empty. You might get to your destination, but you'll never experience the true speed of the machine. Compulsive masturbation, in particular, is devastating to the development of personal power because it combines the worst of two worlds, the dissipation of vital energy with the reinforcement of mental patterns of instant gratification and escapism.
When a man compulsively masturbates, he's not just losing semen, he's training his brain to seek satisfaction through neurochemical shortcuts, to avoid life's real challenges through artificial pleasures, to substitute real achievement with masturbatory fantasy. The result is a progressive atrophy of willpower, discipline, the ability to delay gratification, and to persevere in the face of obstacles. The man addicted to masturbation gradually becomes a man addicted to ease. He loses the ability to confront resistance, overcome frustration, and build long-term projects. His mind becomes accustomed to the quick fix, the immediate relief, the effortless satisfaction, and these mental characteristics extend to all areas of his life, relationships, career, health, existential purpose. But when a man decides to break this vicious cycle and begin to conserve his sexual energy, he initiates a process of neurological reconstruction that literally reprograms his brain for excellence. The discipline required to resist sexual impulses strengthens all other forms of discipline. The ability to delay sexual gratification develops the ability to delay any gratification in the name of larger goals. The power to say no to the body's desires develops the power to say no to anything that is not aligned with his vision of personal greatness. That's why all great systems of human development, from the oldest esoteric traditions to the most modern military training methods, include some form of sexual discipline as a fundamental component. Not out of puritanism or moralism, but because they recognize that control over sexual energy is the basis of all other controls. The man who cannot govern his sexual impulses cannot govern anything in his life truly effectively. The Stoics called this inner kingdom, absolute mastery over all aspects of one's own nature. To them, a man could only be considered truly free when he was not a slave to any desire, when he could consciously choose when and how to express his most powerful energies. This inner freedom was the basis of all other freedoms, political, economic, social, spiritual. When you conserve your sexual energy for extended periods, something extraordinary happens in your personal energy field. You develop what the ancients called animal magnetism, a presence that naturally attracts people, an invisible force that makes others want to be near you, follow your lead, trust your words. This magnetism has nothing to do with physical appearance or learned social skills. It's literally an energetic emanation resulting from the concentration and elevation of vital force. Natural leaders, charismatic speakers, inspiring artists, visionary entrepreneurs, they all possess this magnetism to varying degrees. And invariably, when you investigate their biographies deeply, you discover that they developed some form of conscious control over their sexual energy. Not necessarily absolute celibacy, but a conscious and disciplined relationship with this primordial force. Conserved sexual energy also radically transforms the quality of your thoughts. Instead of scattered, superficial, reactive thoughts, you develop concentrated, profound, creative thoughts. Your mind stops operating in survival mode and begins to operate in creation mode. You stop reacting to external stimuli and begin to generate internal realities. You stop being a passive consumer of information and become an active producer of insights. This mental transformation is immediately reflected in your ability to manifest results in the external world. Projects that once seemed impossible become stimulating challenges. Goals that once generated anxiety become exciting adventures. People who once intimidated you become opportunities for connection and influence. You literally shift your vibrational frequency, and the world around you begins to respond to this new frequency. But perhaps the most profound transformation is spiritual. When you conserve and transmute your sexual energy, you reconnect with sacred dimensions of existence that modern society has taught us to forget. You rediscover that your body is not just a collection of organs and biological systems, but a temple of cosmic forces. You realize that your sexuality is not just a reproductive instinct, but a conscious participation in the very creative force of the universe. Ancient mystery schools always included profound teachings on the transmutation of sexual energy because they recognized that this was the key to genuine spiritual awakening. Not the superficial emotional awakening that characterizes many modern religions, but the real awakening, the activation of dormant potentials in human consciousness, the opening of perceptual channels that transcend the five physical senses, the ability to operate simultaneously in multiple dimensions of reality. When a man completely masters his sexual energy, he literally becomes a channel for higher forces. His words carry power because they come from a place of inner power. His actions generate disproportionate results because they are fueled by concentrated energy that most people waste. His presence inspires and transforms because it emanates a force that touches something deep within the soul of those nearby. It is this transformation that separates ordinary men from extraordinary men. Not innate talent, not luck, not family connections or social privileges, but the ability to consciously channel the most powerful force of human nature for higher purposes. It's the difference between living like an intelligent animal, driven by instincts and impulses, and living like an embodied divine being, capable of shaping reality through the concentrated force of conscious will. The path is not easy. It demands sacrifice of immediate pleasures for the sake of higher gratifications. It requires discipline when society preaches permissiveness. It demands solitude when crowds offer superficial companionship. It demands patience when everything around you accelerates frantically, but for those who persevere, who weather the storms of inner transformation, who resist the seductions of comfortable mediocrity, the reward is the awakening of powers most people don't even suspect exist. Imagine waking up every morning feeling a vital energy pulsing through every cell of your body. Imagine having such intense mental clarity that complex problems become fun puzzles. Imagine possessing such a magnetic presence that people are naturally drawn to hear your words and follow your lead. Imagine accessing such heightened levels of intuition that you just know things without having rationally learned them. Imagine having such a developed willpower that no external obstacle can divert you from your most important goals. This is not fantasy or motivational hype. It's the natural state of the man who consciously preserves and transmutes his sexual energy. It's what all the great men in history discovered and applied to their lives. It's the best-kept secret of human excellence, hidden in plain sight in a society that has confused liberation with licentiousness, that has traded real power for fleeting pleasure, that has substituted authentic transformation for instant gratification. Contained semen is truly the fuel of geniuses not because it contains magical ingredients, but because its preservation forces a complete reorganization of the human energy system. It's like damming a powerful river. The accumulated water generates pressure that can move giant turbines, illuminate entire cities, transform landscapes. When you dam your sexual energy, it generates an internal pressure that can move mountains of impossibilities, illuminate unexplored territories of consciousness, completely transform the landscape of your personal reality. And here we arrive at the final paradox, the truth that transcends all techniques and methods. The man who truly masters his sexual energy is not the one who represses it out of fear or dogma, but the one who understands it so deeply that he can consciously choose when, how, and with whom to express it. He is not a slave to abstinence nor a slave to indulgence. He is the absolute master of his own nature. This mastery doesn't come through rigid rules or external disciplines, but through an increasingly intimate and conscious relationship with the forces operating within you. It comes through understanding that you are not your desires, you are not your impulses, you are not your compulsions, you are the consciousness that observes, that chooses, that directs these energies to where they can best serve your evolution and your contribution to the world. The true sexual stoic is not the one who denies his nature, but the one who transcends it through understanding. He knows that all sexual energy is disguised creative energy, that every carnal impulse is a cosmic call to consciously participate in the infinite process of universal creation. When he preserves his semen, he doesn't do it out of moral obligation, but out of love for the magnificence he can manifest when this energy is channeled towards his highest potentials. Your journey of sexual transmutation begins with a simple choice, but one that demands extraordinary courage, the choice to stop wasting the force that could transform you into a giant. It begins with the recognition that every moment of instant gratification you choose is a moment of future greatness you abandon. It begins with the deep understanding that you possess within you an energy capable of moving mountains, but you are choosing to use it only to move your own hand in repetitive and empty gestures. The power is in your hands, literally. The choice is yours, definitively. The moment is now, inevitably. You can continue living like another ordinary man, daily dissipating the force that could make you exceptional, or you can start today to discover what it truly means to be a man in the highest sense of the word. A man who is not moved by impulses, but who moves energies with purpose. A man who does not seek easy pleasure, but who builds lasting satisfaction. A man who does not waste his potential on fleeting moments, but who accumulates power for permanent achievements. Contained semen is truly the fuel of geniuses because it represents the conscious transmutation of the most primitive force into more refined power, of the most basic impulse into higher creativity, of the most animalistic need into a more divine capacity. When you understand this not only intellectually but viscerally, when you feel it in every fiber of your being, when you live it in every choice of your day, then you awaken to a dimension of masculinity that few men in our time ever come to know. And in that awakening you discover that you weren't just preserving semen, you were cultivating genius. You weren't just controlling impulses, you were unleashing potentials. You weren't just practicing discipline, you were building divinity. The fuel of geniuses has always been within you, waiting only for you to have enough courage to stop burning it in straw fires and start using it to ignite stars of accomplishments that will illuminate future generations.